What's going on, everybody? It's Joel here, and today we're taking a look at the Nike Metcon Sport. So when these popped up on Instagram, I think somebody sent me some like leaked images of them. I didn't know what to think. The design, not like any other Metcon we've seen before. I mean, I guess in some ways it's kind of similar to the Free X Metcon, but there's one distinct difference, and that's not the only difference, but the most distinct difference is the fact that, yeah, it doesn't have laces. Definitely the most polarizing part of the design. Some people say that they look like water shoes, but you know, I don't really agree. I actually think they look cool. But you know, design and looks are always going to be subjective, so what I like, other people are not going to like. And I kind of like different looking shoes. I don't like the same old thing. But anyways, starting with the build quality construction of this shoe, I think we got over a lot of the way that the shoe looks, but let's talk about, you know, what makes up the upper now. The ankle collar area is like your typical sock-like design. I guess that's like what's trending right now. It's more similar to the material that's found on the Flyknit 3s than the Free X Metcons. It's kind of got this like squishy feeling. I don't want to say neoprene, but it's like a smoother fabric. It's actually pretty comfortable in this area, and the Achilles part is not turned in like it is on the Free X Metcons. It's like straight up, maybe slightly turned away. So if you had issues with the Free X Metcons rubbing up on your Achilles, this is probably going to be a lot better for you. Plus, this material is just way softer than the one found on the Free X Metcons. The tongue part doesn't really make contact with your foot, at least it doesn't with mine, and I have pretty skinny ankles. So around the ankle collar, the shoe fits extremely well for me. It's very, very comfortable. The next thing, and let's just get this out of the way right now, is the strap. So the strap only goes kind of around the top part of your foot. That's the only part that secures and locks down on this shoe. And it's basically just like any other like lateral medial strap, just kind of straps through this top little piece that says training, and you bring it on over. It's Velcro hook and loop, and it fits, or it makes the shoe fit very, very well. Like, there's no heel slip. It's very surprising. It's actually one of the most noticeable features about the shoe is how locked down it feels in the ankle area. It's actually really good, and if they were to like incorporate this with some laces, this would be like one of the best fitting shoes. Not laces all the way through, but just kind of something to like lock it down in like the metatarsal joints of the Metcon Sports, because in this area it can feel a little bit loose because the shoes are so freaking wide. If you like look at them from top down, I mean, they're just a wide shoe overall. There's outriggers on the outsole, so if you look at the outside part here, there's a piece that shoots out to give you a little bit more lateral stability with the ground. That's the same with the heel part of the shoe. It's expanded around the sides of the midsole or the outsole to give you more contact area, to give you more stability with the ground. But anyways, let's go back to the toe box. And one of the things that I noticed from this toe box is that it kind of resembles Yeezy 350s. If you just kind of look down at it real quick, just kind of cover that part up. But the material kind of looks like 350s. It's a knit type material. It's not the same kind of material that's found on the Free X Metcons. Those ones have like a TPU yarn that kind of go through them. This is just a mesh material. There are some overlays around the edges to give it a little bit more durability in like high wear areas, or a little bit more support in these areas as well. So there's one at like the metatarsal joint of your pinky toe. So if you're like torquing your feet out, this little lip right here and the outsole should give you increased like lateral stability with the ground, which is excellent with this shoe. And then in the inner part at the big toe area, there is also another little piece of like polyurethane that's there to give you a little bit more foot containment inside of the Metcon Sports. So like other Metcon shoes, or the Metcon 4 and the Flyknit 3s, the Metcon Sports actually do have a drop-in midsole. What the drop-in midsole is there to do is to give you a little bit of underfoot cushioning while keeping the shoe flexible and durable at the same time. The whole drop-in midsole concept is mainly just a flagship premium product thing. So it's actually kind of crazy to see it on a $100 pair of shoes. But unlike those shoes, these have a insole that's glued in on top of that drop-in midsole to give you just a little bit more underfoot cushioning. Not a ton, just a little bit. This drop-in midsole, in comparison to the Metcon 4s and the Flyknits, is a little bit thinner. It's a little bit more dense than it is on the Flyknit. It's about as dense as it is on the Metcon 4, but it has these high sidewalls right here around the heel to give you a little bit more lateral stability around the heel of the shoe. And then there's this interesting design. This is actually the same as the outsole design. And with this drop-in midsole, I haven't noticed any kind of squeaking. So I feel like they're using the same compound that they're using on the Flyknit 3s, and they just kind of smushed it down. The drop heel to toe is 4 millimeters. That's not on the website. That had to be confirmed through Nike's Twitter account. So coming around to the outsole of the shoe, like I said, we have that kind of spirally tri-star design that is on the bottom of the drop-in midsole. This traction pattern is excellent. It holds the ground very, very well. You feel extremely secure every time you take a step, every time you make a landing from like box jumps and whatnot. It's just a really good traction pattern. It kind of resembles something you'd find on a turf shoe, but it translates well into like the rubber flooring of my gym outside on asphalt. It's really nice to have. And then the weight of this shoe is a little bit on the heavy side. I weighed in my men's 10s at 13.54 ounces. So these are going to be considerably more heavy than like the Metcon 4s, the Free X Metcons, and the Flyknit 3s. So when you go to size your Metcon Sports, I'm going to say go with your standard training shoe size. These fit a little bit on the wide side. So if you have a narrow foot, that might be the only occasion where I'd say maybe try a half size down. I got these in a size 10. There's a great amount of space in the toe box of these shoes. I mean, the toe box is extremely wide. Nothing else in the shoe is all that wide. I mean, the heel's pretty normal, and then the midfoot of the shoe is pretty adjustable, so you can get a pretty customizable fit in the midfoot, but the toe box is just really, really wide. And I think it's very comfortable. But like I said, if you have narrow feet, you're probably not gonna like that. If you have wide feet, you're gonna love these shoes. So for reference, I wear a size 10 in my Metcon 4s, and that's pretty much like right on the money. I wear a size 10 in my Free X Metcons, that's right on the money. A 10 in the Flyknit 3s is a little bit on the small side. I think I can get a 10.5. And then my 908s are a size 10 as well. And these fit bigger than the 908s, but just by a little bit. So when I first got these shoes, I thought that they would be like a flexible trainer like the Free X Metcons. I thought they were just gonna be like a budget version of the Free X Metcons, to be honest with you, but they're not. The way that you would use these shoes, I mean, they're still training shoes, but the way that I would use them is for workouts where I required a little bit more stability, but I still needed like flexibility, but I wasn't going like running or anything. These are definitely not the best running shoes, and that's because there's just not a whole lot of underfoot cushioning. But if you're doing like shorter runs, I think that these shoes are great. If you're sprinting, I think these shoes are excellent. Despite the fact that they're heavy, the contact area with the ground is excellent, the response is excellent. So I mean, if you're doing like 100-meter sprints, these are going to be really, really good. You know, just anything where you're not running any kind of distances, because yeah, the underfoot cushioning is like non-existent in these shoes. But I still think that they're very comfortable because they're flexible. The drop-in midsole moves your feet really well. The outsole of these shoes is flexible for the most part, and then the toe box moves extremely well. There's no real like catch areas of the shoe. Obviously the middle part of the shoe is not going to be all that flexible, but pretty much everything else about the shoe is very, very flexible and comfortable. To use these shoes for plyometric movements is probably going to be the strongest suit because of just how responsive the shoes are. And once again, that wide contact area, they're extremely stable feeling shoes, other than the fact that yeah, they are a little bit heavy. But for all of those reasons, I think that these are probably one of the best plyometric shoes. I'd say that they're better than the Free X Metcons, and they're better than the Metcon 4s, but just slightly better than the Metcon 4s. Okay, rope climbing in the Metcon Sports. Grip is excellent on the way up. Coming down, not super good. They do want to pull off your feet, but they did fare better than the Free X Metcon, so I'm gonna say that they are good, but they made my shoes pretty dang dirty, but I did have the white colorway, so if you want to do rope climbs, make sure you get the black colorway because they're gonna get pretty disgusting in that area if you have the white ones. But I'm gonna return these anyways. Like I said before, I thought these shoes were gonna be like a budget Free X Metcon, so I thought they were gonna be like a flexible, comfortable trainer. But I was actually surprised in a good way to find out that they're just like really, really good lifting shoes. These are extremely stable shoes, and there are a few key features about the shoe or details that make it so good for weightlifting movements. First off, going back to that wide contact area with the ground, these are extremely wide shoes, and the outsole expands out in a bunch of key areas to make it even more stable. Like I said, you have that lip around the outside of the shoe, and that's going to give you more ability to torque your feet out for things like squats and deadlifts. The heel of the shoe is expanded all around in the outsole area, and that's going to give you a greater contact area for pushing for your squats. The just overall platform of the shoe is just geared for lifting. The traction of the shoe is excellent. It holds the ground very, very well. If you can get your feet set and planted with these shoes, they're going to be excellent, excellent lifting shoes. I personally prefer these over any of the Metcon shoes for squats and deadlifts. Anything where you're just kind of planted and you're standing there, you can really get some good power delivery out of the Metcon Sports because of just the design of the shoe. The drop-in midsole is dense. It doesn't really give it all. The only bit of underfoot cushioning that you get is that like insole that's laid down on top of it. You can get a really good lockdown fit with the strap that goes around your ankle, and it just gives you a secure feeling when you're wearing these shoes and you're doing any kind of lifts. Now, the only area that I'd say that I probably would stay away from the Metcon Sports in is like heavy barbell work, or like mainly just like snatches. That's the only issue that I had with these shoes. When I was doing cleans, I didn't really have an issue. I could clean pretty heavy in these. I might just be better at cleans than I am at snatches, but the overhead stability in the bottom of the squat is a little sketch. Then that's mainly just because the shoe is flexible in the toe box. It allows your foot to move around quite a bit because the toe box is on the wide side. And while this area of the shoe is pretty locked in, the ankle area, the toe area is not. So when you hit your landings, they can be a little bit inconsistent because of just how generously fitting the toe box is. But I only really noticed an issue when I was snatching on the heavy side. If I was doing like power snatches, I didn't have an issue with these shoes. When I was doing power cleans or any kind of cleans really, or any kind of barbell movements in a WOD, so like typical WOD weights never really go past like 135, 155, so I never really had any issues with those. But when I was snatching like 200 pounds, I became a little bit more sketched out wearing the Metcon Sports. But overall, I'd say the lifting performance of these shoes is excellent. The stability is excellent. Response is excellent. Power delivery is excellent on these shoes. And that is very, very, very surprising because these are a $100 pair of shoes. These are the cheapest Metcons and what you would consider budget training shoes. And that combined with like the flexibility, combined with the stability of these shoes is what makes them so freaking good. These are just like the best deal in training shoes right now, and definitely the best $100 pair of training shoes that's come out in a long time, and for sure the most interesting one, because usually in that $100 budget segment you don't see things geared towards stability. You see them kind of geared towards a little bit of like comforts, a little bit more like flexibility. Like the Speed TRs are excellent, don't get me wrong, but those were geared towards like lighter training, whereas these are, in my opinion, geared towards like actual sport specific training. So like I could see these shoes getting picked up and worn by people training for football, people that are on turf, people that need to make quick cuts, do footwork, and then also do weightlifting, like heavier lifts, not necessarily Olympic weightlifting, but squat, bench, deadlift. Same thing goes with like basketball players, people that need to work on like explosiveness, plyometrics. These are going to be excellent for, and even like boxers that need like that lateral stability, they need to be able to move their feet well laterally. These are going to be excellent for. But then again, they also fit really well inside of a gym. Whatever kind of gym training you're doing, the Metcon Sports are going to handle very, very well. Sure, they're not the best running shoe, but you can for sure take these for runs. They're not the worst. I'd say stay inside of the gym with them. I'd say do your like agility work, your plyometric work, and your lifting. Maybe stay away from Olympic weightlifting depending on how comfortable you are with these shoes. But overall, I think the Metcon Sports are probably the most compelling shoe in the Metcon lineup right now. And I think that these are the must-buy Metcon. One of the first must-buy shoes of the year, in my opinion, if you can just get past the way that they look. I hope they're coming out with some new colorways pretty soon, because I think the launch colorways were a little bit on the bland side, but overall I think the Metcon Sports are for sure a must-buy of 2019. So if you guys have any questions about the Metcon Sport, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and as always guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.